This is lesson 33, writing percents as fractions, part 1 for course 1. So just quick note, this is part 1 for the program itself, not me splitting this lesson into two pieces. So this is the full video for lesson 33. All right, so when you're writing percents as fractions, it's actually really straightforward. So whenever you're thinking of a percentage, that's your percentage sign. Any percent is out of 100. Easiest way to think of it for me is through money. Okay, it takes 100 pennies to make $1. So if you have 1 penny, you have 1 out of 100. You have 1%. If I had 5 pennies, I would have 5% out of 100. Okay, because I have 5% of $1 or 5 pennies to $1, if that was $1. Okay, but that is percentage and a fraction. It is whatever the percentage is over 100. Example, if I have 25% and you have a question that says, write 25% into a fraction. Well, 25% as a fraction is 25 over 100. Okay, just remember that whenever you're changing a percentage over to a fraction, the denominator will always be 100. Now from here, if I wanted to reduce this fraction, that's something different that we'll work on. So if you have the fraction, let's say 60 over 100, okay? My percentage was 60. I made it into a fraction by putting 60 over 100. And now that works. That is a proper fraction. But I always want to do, when I'm working with fractions, I always want them to be in their lowest terms. So I'm going to make this into lowest terms. First thing I look at, 60 is lower than 100, which means this is a proper fraction, not an improper. If it was an improper fraction, we would be having a whole number over here, but it's not, so we're good. Now I need to figure out what is the biggest number I can divide both of these numbers by. Now, because both of these numbers end in 0, I can do a little trick. I can pretend both of these zeros are not here for the moment, and I can say, what's the biggest number that goes into 6 and 10? Well, they're both even numbers. I know 5 goes into 10, but 5 doesn't go into 6 perfectly. What about 2, seeing as they're both even? 2 will work. I could divide them both by 2. Now, remember that 0 I got rid of? We're going to bring that 0 back. Now, because I could divide 6 by 2 and 10 by 2, and I got rid of the 2 zeros to do that, I'm going to add that 0 back in here. So I'm now dividing 60 by 20 and 100 by 20. When I do that, I get 3 over 5. Now I look at this and I say, can I reduce this any further? Is there any number that goes into both 3 and 5 equally that I can divide by? No, there is not, which means this is lowest terms. Okay, now if you didn't know the 0 trick and you wanted to go this a different way, we can do this a long way. So let's say that we started off with our 60 over 100 from our 60%. And you need to reduce. And so you start looking at it and you go, okay, well, they both end in 0. So I know I can divide them both by 10. Okay, cool. Let's divide them both by 10. 60 divided by 10 is 6. 100 divided by 10 is 10. Hey, look at that. Okay, I now look at this and I go, is that lowest terms? Is there a number I can divide both of these by? Now, when I do this, I think of certain numbers right off the top of my head. I think of 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 10s. Okay, can I divide both these numbers by 2? Yes, I can. They're both even, therefore I can divide them by 2. Can I divide them both by 3? 6 divides equally by 3, but 10 does not. 4? Nope. 5? Nope. 10? Too big. Okay, which means 2 is my option. So I'm going to divide them both by 2. And I get 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Both of them got you to the same answer. One of them required you to then look at it again and say, is it lowest terms? So always do that just in case you've never gotten the biggest number. Always look at your answer and go, is it lowest terms yet? And do it again. See if you can keep doing it. You keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you can't anymore and you are actually at lowest terms. Okay. We'll look at one more together and then I'll let you get started. So this one says, find the reduced fraction that equals 4%. Okay, so we started off with 4%. Now remember, when we're turning percentages into fractions, again, our denominator is always 100 and the percentage just goes on top. So it's 4 out of 100. That's what a percentage is it's whatever out of 100. Okay, so I have 4 hundredths. Now, this one is kind of cool because what I can do, remember how I said you're using money before? If you know money pretty well, what you might notice is that I can actually split. So first things I look at is what numbers can I divide both these by? Well, I can divide them both by 2 because they're both even numbers, but I can also divide them both by 4 because I can divide 4 by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 100 divided by 4, or $1 split into 4 equal groups, is quarters. Remember, we've talked about this before, is 1/4 is 1/4 or 1/4 of $1. So 4 quarters equals $1, which means I can divide 100 by 4. So we're going to divide both of these by 4, and we're going to get 1, and I just know it's going to be a quarter. A quarter is 25 cents, so it's 1 over 25. Now, because my numerator is 1, instantly it is lowest terms. Okay, as soon as your numerator is 1, you are at lowest terms. And I'm done. Okay, remember that whenever you're doing these ones, this is just right there. That is a percentage turned into a fraction. Okay, when you do this, it will normally then tell you to reduce to lowest terms if possible. Sometimes when you put the fraction into the percentage into a fraction, it already is lowest terms and you can't divide either of them equally by something. It is very rare, but it does happen. Okay, so if you can't divide either of them by the same number, you're already at lowest terms. But if you can divide both of them by the same number, you are not at lowest terms. One of the first easiest ways to tell if you can make it to lowest terms is, are your numbers even? If both of your numbers are even, you can divide them by 2. Okay, always keep that in mind. That is lesson 33, writing percents as fractions, part 1.